Dr. Benishek from Michigan for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks, Chief Waller, for being here. I too think that this RCPP model is really the way to go. And to me, I've seen similar public-private partnerships do a much better job in delivering the service that they're trying to deliver than government regulators. To me, that a lot of times in Washington, when the government starts doing things, they do things from so far away that they don't take into account the regional and local concerns. And by having a public-private partnership, if it's for charitable works or nutrition or soil conservation, getting all the people involved and showing them how this is advantage to them, providing leadership, and that's really the way to go with, I think, all government, or a large majority of government services. So I'm happy that this seems to be successful. A question I have is, now that this has started, I think you've done a couple of rounds of conservation projects. How is it going? How have things changed since you've been there? Tell me, have you learned anything? Is there anything that we should do differently with the next Farm Bill? Or what are some of the challenges that you're seeing that maybe it could make us do something even better the next time?
Well, what I've seen is really an evolution. So we've done 2 rounds, you're correct, sir, of awards. And we're actually about to hopefully release the announcement for the 3rd round in the near future, in the next couple of weeks, where we feel we have really positive momentum. And the response from partners across the country have been immense. So for every dollar that we could award into a project, a partner project, the demand was 7-8-fold for that $1. So it's very competitive. Which to me just shows that there's huge untapped potential that really we can better harness. But people also are very excited when you give them the opportunity to really take the lead and to design projects that work in their communities, to your point, you're going to have much more enduring and I think a quicker success. So from the first round, both...
It's a better way of doing things than simply regulating from Washington, as far as I can see.
From our experience, I mean, we are inherently a locally led agency. So we really take to heart, first understanding at the farm gate what that producer wants to do, in that community, that county, what the local work group wants to do, in that state, what are the priorities in that state. Really, that's our history and our culture at the agency, but I think it fits well to the point you're making, yes.
So can you name a particular challenge or a problem that some producers are quoting that are making them hesitate to join this? Has it all been positive?
From what I've heard, I don't want to overstate, it's all positive. Of course, there's growing pains, and some projects are quicker out of the gate than others. But I think holistically, if you look at the projects, the overwhelming number of projects have been successful. I think some producers, though, may be reluctant in a state like Michigan, where they hear about this, but they're not sure who these partners are. They haven't heard of them. Or they just don't want to work with, it could be they don't want to work with the government, they don't want to work with NRCS, or they don't want to work with a different partner for whatever reason. That may be a reluctance. And so what the program still allows then is a producer, they don't want to work directly with the RCPP partnership. They can still come to the local conservation district and still get access to assistance directly that way. So there are ways that the committee has built into the program so that you don't necessarily have to work either with a partnership, you can work privately as an individual as well. So overall, I've heard the response from the feedback from both our staff, but also producers around the country has been positive.
Well, would you agree with me in my assessment that this public-private partnership and voluntary conservation is a better way to conserve our land and improve production for farmers?
I will say that a voluntary approach is a great way to do conservation.
All right, I'll yield back the remainder of my time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
The gentleman from Michigan, Dr. Benishek, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Bowman, hey, good to see you. Hey, I was happy to see you the other day at the Great Lakes meeting. That we were both there for a while there, and I was happy to hear about your work with this conservation plan. And then your example with the water table, the work that you're doing. And also, in your written testimony, we talked about this Michigan agribusiness, developing a partnership with them. Can you tell me more about how that works?
Sure. We have identified a suite of 10 NRCS practices that have the field-based practices that have the most positive impact on water quality. And we've put those into a tool similar to this one that allows the certified crop advisors, when they're meeting with their customers, to use that tool to talk about different production scenarios and how they can integrate conservation into those production scenarios. But one of the important things, and I think my fellow witness, Mr. Price, would appreciate this, is that we don't lead with the cost share. The conservation has to make business sense for the producer's operation, and then we share with them, and there may be financial assistance available if you're interested, but you ought to farm this way anyway. And there are some producers that don't want to participate with the government because they have their reasons, and we actually have some private pools of money that we've put together where we can cost share on practices using that private money that then don't have some of the application requirements that the producer has to go through with the public money.
Well, you also mentioned in your written testimony about how some of the government agency people had some reluctance to work with the producers a little bit too.
Well, I have to be careful. I don't know if the chief is still here, but the fact is that when we first proposed this project and said we're going to have certified crop advisors talking about conservation with their producers, we ruffled some feathers among some of the agency folks out in the field because they sort of said, well, that's what we do. And the fact is, they are the technical experts on conservation when it comes to applying those conservation practices. But in order for us to be most effective, maybe we don't need them out there recruiting the growers. Maybe we need them helping the growers with the actual execution of the practices, and we can use other folks to recruit the growers. And so, yeah, we're going through some growing pains with this project, but I think we're going to come out on the other side all right.
No, that's good to hear. You might have heard my comments with the chief there. I think these, private, not-profit partnerships along with the business, it just works better because there's better communication between all the parties rather than having the government make an edict about what you got to do this, and then they don't really know what they're talking about because they're not right there on this farm or on the land. And I think this approach leads to a much better result. Let me just end by asking a question. What can we make? How can we make this better? I mean, did the Farm Bill, were there policies there that helped you out or made you do your job better?
Yeah, so there's one item, and we're in discussion with NRCS on this right now, and this is a little bit of a cultural change for the agency. When they work with a grower, the first thing they do is go out and develop a conservation plan for that farm, and that can sometimes be involved for both the agency and the grower to get through all of that. One of the things we're asking for is actually sort of an exemption from that conservation planning requirement, because in our RCPP proposal, we had to already say what the resource concern was we were addressing. We had to already say how we were going to address it, and we had to put in place a protocol to screen that only the fields that were actually addressing it would be eligible for the cost share. And so if we have a grower that's never done anything with the government before, and we're saying to him, why don't you try doing this filter strip or this drainage control structure on this one spot, and then we turn around and they say, well, you have to have the staff person come out and do this conservation plan and do all that kind of stuff. Maybe we can make a little bit easier entry for them into these programs by looking at some different ways to get them in.
All right, thank you. I'm out of time.